What is up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare Minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire Leadership podcast that I pray puts fresh wind in your sails and pushes you and encourages you to go after your dreams, because I truly believe this, that all of you were made on purpose for a purpose. And today I have the one and only Mr. Roger Short. And Roger, will you say hey to everyone just real quickly?
Hey, Rob, man, it's such a pleasure to be on your podcast this afternoon. I'm excited to be on there. I catch clips of you every day. I love your Facebook posts. I love your energy. You got a voice that's meant for the millions, and it needs to be heard. So I'm excited to be on your podcast today.
Well, listen, my friend, I know you could be a million other places. And so I'm so thankful that you would be generous with your time today. Pour into us, and I know you're going to spit some serious fire. But before we do that, I want to remind all of you to comment, to like, and subscribe. That's the most important part. So that way you're alerted every single time we drop fresh content like this. So Roger, what I always like to do when I sit down with a leader like yourself is really just to ask if you could give us what I call that Sports Center highlight version of your story. A little bit of the background, maybe some of that transition time up into where you're at today.
How far do you want me to go back, Rob?
As far as whatever you feel to do, my friend.
You see, there's gray hair coming in here, and it goes way back. So, Rob, like you, I actually started out my career. I went to a Christian college and have a degree in theology. I don't know if you knew that or not. But I too did ministry for quite a few years, youth ministry, worked with high school students. I met my wife doing that, actually. And the first gentleman that I kind of partnered with in that field, working in East Toronto, in a lot of the high schools east of the city there. His name was Dale Winder. So Dale was in a similar field. And he's the first person who extended an opportunity for me to go into business with him on a part-time business that we started together. And that's what got me launched into this entrepreneurial chapter of my life, I guess. And but I've always had a passion for making a difference in people's lives. I've always been strong on my faith, and I want to communicate that the world is meant for making an impact. And I do believe you were made on purpose. I do believe you were made for a higher calling, and I do believe we were made to impact people's lives with whatever we choose to do. So I found my way into sales while I was still doing that on a part-time basis, and found that I had a skill set of communication, and continued to lean into that and develop it. I eventually started my own company and got into the Yellow Pages business back in 2001. Started my own business in that field. I'd been in that arena for about 3 or 4 years prior. Moved to the U.S. from Toronto, Canada, launched a Yellow Pages company with some other partners, grew that business, was quite successful, grew that to, we were developing a national footprint. We actually achieved 8 states and 48 markets. It was a healthy, we were at 62 million, I think, in 2008 at its peak. But by 2010, I had taken on a passion to do something different in the insurance space, and resigned a position with my own company, and got into the insurance space and got my insurance license, and found out about a little niche called final expense. Yep. And thought, if I could find my way in this and figure out how to grow it and scale it, we could build a really cool business here, and I can impact a lot of people. And thus came the challenge and the calling in my life to always be a difference maker. And I challenge people to be one. I've been wearing this on my wrist for many, many years. I take it off and give it away, and I put a new one on. And I keep calling people to make a difference in their life, no matter where they are. And so we try to do that in our business, in the insurance space with our agency, in the life insurance space, and also with our academy, with the Life Insurance Academy. And I've been blessed. We've had a lot of great impact, and I'm the husband of a beautiful wife, and the dad of 3 beautiful girls, all of which are most grown now. I have one 16-year-old left. My oldest is married, and she's moved on, and I've got one more that's just finishing up her master's right now. So yeah, I've been blessed. I can only say I've been blessed and highly favored, and I'm leaning into every opportunity God gives me to make an impact in this world.
Man, that is so awesome. So I want to go back to one thing, because anytime I interview someone who's passionate about their faith, obviously I am, is I talked about this, an interview. I did an interview with a motivational speaker who's a faith-based motivational speaker I met at a Heartland Insurance conference in Clearwater, Florida, and we just instantly connected. And I told him one of the things that I fell into ministry, and I'd love to hear your input in this, because we talked about theology and seminary degrees and all that, is I fell into this myth that I had to be a broke minister. And there's this thought, I don't know if they preach it from the pulpit necessarily, but there's this prevailing thought that ministers should not have money. And I found myself gravitating into that for several years. And it really was until God sent someone in my life that really woke me up out of that a few years ago. But can you talk about that? Because so many people in ministry preach against money so heavily and prospering. But I love what you're saying, making a difference, making an impact. And I think you would agree that the more impact you make and the more value you bring, it's like the income just follows.
Well, I mean, just like any profession in life, I don't think God wants us to be scraping by. I mean, yes, you can make a difference in people's lives. You can serve. You can certainly make yourself available to serve in food kitchens and to do great things, to serve in one-on-one capacities. But to serve at a higher level, you need funds, you need financing, you need resources, you need the resources of people. One of the best resources that I can think of is not an individual dollar, but it's a network of people who have access to resources. So it's getting around other people. And typically, in any good organization, in any good movement, any good church, any good ministry, those ministries are always backed by successful business owners. And there's a lot of business owners that will come in behind those ministries. And because of their heart to make a difference in the world, they serve those ministries. I mean, our business today supports ministries all over the world. And from high school FCA programs to missionaries in Europe. And we do that very intentionally. And I'm blessed to be able to do it. So I can't see that God wants you to prosper and be successful as a business owner to be able to support churches, the ministries and missions, and yet not want the leader of a church impacting a bunch of people to be poor. I don't think God wants that person to be poor. Now, if they choose that life, if they choose to serve in an area where there's just not a lot of support and it's hard to gain support, and they want to give their life to that calling, I mean, that's a calling that they would seek to live out. But depending on where you are in the world, I don't think it's not a binary issue. God doesn't say you have to be poor as a minister. I just think it's where you choose to be in life. It's a lot of your own personal choices that get you there. So I know high school teachers who are wealthy because they chose to make an impact above teaching at the high school level. High school teachers who've said, I want to make an impact bigger. I want to write a book. I want to write books on how to raise kids and how to be an impact in people's lives, how to be a coach. And those books have gone on to become bestsellers, and they've gone on to speak around the country because of their impact. But yet they're a high school teacher by profession, but they're wealthy because of the ways that they wanted to give of their life beyond what they do for a living. So I don't think it's dictated in Scripture to be poor.
Yeah, and it's interesting that if you know that God has given you a 6-figure, 7-figure skill set, who gave that to you? God, right? And he it's the parable of the talents. What are we going to do with that? So I definitely love what you're saying there. And the only reason I bring that up is because I do have a following of faith-based people that I think sometimes, like I said, I don't necessarily know if it's preached from the pulpit, but someone who's been in ministry for over 20 years, it's almost like understood sometimes when you become at the minister level. And even myself, I fell into what the late Zig Ziglar calls stinking thinking, right? I had some stinking thinking going on. So I love that you're saying that. And my prayer for me that helps me not get so consumed with wealth more than making an impact is, hey, God, will you bless me more so I can be a bigger blessing to more people? Yeah, and it sounds like you're that same type of person.
100%. The more successful you become as a business owner, the more opportunities you have to support other causes.
Sure.
And when I say the more opportunities, people seek you out because you are a successful business owner, because they typically know if you're a person who represents themselves as someone who wants to make an impact and you're successful financially, there's a good opportunity there that that person may support this ministry, this cause. And there's a reason why they're looking for the funds. It's because they need it. And so, boy, it'd be a terrible place if we were all poor.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. Definitely spent some serious fire early on. And to kind of stay in that same lane in regards to faith, spiritually, what is the greatest paradigm shift that you've had that's contributed to your success?
Give me some more context to your question. What are you looking for?
Yeah,
there?
like for instance, spiritually, because of your faith, whether it was a leadership principle from the Bible or maybe one of those Paul moments in your life, if you will, and using that as an example, as a paradigm shift, something that was a great shift in your life that's helped you become the leader you are today.
I would have to go back to an act of service that was expressed to me and my family, me and my wife,
Okay.
when we were just getting started. I don't know if this is going to be directly in line, but this is a pivotal point in my life that's made an impact, and I still have difficulty telling the story without getting emotional.
Yeah.
And it's 25 years later, and I still get emotional telling the story, and it's such a simple story. There are good people in life that want to come alongside you and support you. There are so many things in your life that you want to do. When I left high school, I wanted to make an impact. I didn't know what that looked like. I grew up, my dad was a self-employed business owner. I was the youngest of 9 children. My dad's parents, my dad's dad was living with us at the time. His mom died when he was only 7 years old. They were born and raised he was born and raised in Canada before Newfoundland was a part of Canada. He was born and raised in Newfoundland, where I grew up. And he was 19 before Newfoundland became a part of Canada. So infrastructure there at the time was nominal at best. And Newfoundland was a colony of England. Okay, I'm sounding like I'm dating myself, like I'm 2 generations past, gone by, and yet it's my life, it's my parents. And I'm only 53 years old today, but my dad never went back to school after the 2nd grade because of the tragedy of what happened with his mom. There was no one to take care of him, no one to get him to school. My grandfather had to provide, and he was a logger. So he took my dad into the logging camps. So my dad can write his name. That's it. He cannot read, he cannot write. But the one thing that I learned from my father was entrepreneurialism and the value of hard work. And so my dad always worked hard, and he expressed to other people with his actions how he loved them. He wasn't an emotional lover. He wasn't an affectionate lover. He didn't always tell me that, I was awesome and I was going to do great things and that he loved me and he hugged me. That's not who my father was. I don't blame him for that. I just recognized as I became older why that was. And so he showed his affection through his efforts and his actions. Interestingly, my dad now in his later years, he's the first one to tell you he loves you. He's the first one to cry on the drop of a hat. He's become this emotional person who's now in tune with the fact that he has a faith of his own. But at the time, I saw him as this hard man who worked hard. So as I was growing up, Rob, I was trying to figure out who I was. I was trying to figure out the direction for my life. I had my own faith. It was very real to me. I wanted to make an impact. I decided I was going to go to a Christian college, a Bible college, at a high school. They didn't support me in doing that, but they did not support me either. It was just neutral. It was a neutral thing for them. They're like, whatever you want to do, you go do. And I got involved with my friend Dale Winder, who I told you was also in that youth ministry role. And he extended an opportunity to go into business with him. And we were young and broke, and I had student loan debts, and we were living in a basement apartment, Rob. And the winters got cold in Toronto. Winters get cold, and in February it gets cold. And we were working on these business projects together and going out and seeing people. And I did not have a winter coat. I did not have an overcoat. And one day after work, I got home. My wife said, "There's a package at the door," and I went and opened this package. Now, this is before Amazon. Okay. So
Right.
something special's happening if a package shows up at your door then. And I opened this package, Robin. When I opened this package, inside this box was a winter coat.
Mm.
It was a winter coat. My friend Dale recognized that I was working hard for my family. I wanted to make an impact, and I was going out and serving people, and I didn't have enough clothes to even keep myself warm.
Mm.
And he saw that. Now, he wasn't very much financially better off than I was,
Sure.
but he was enough to recognize that I needed something.
Right.
And he gave a gift to me that meant the world to me. And it impacted so many things for the rest of my life. And I'm like, if I can do simple acts of service and kindness, and I can do that to somebody else, and it can change the course of their life because someone, Dale, through Christ living through him, saw a need and said, I can meet that need. Roger's going to impact people, and I want to do this simple act of kindness. And that changed everything. For me, it was like, I mean, that's where this came from.
Sure.
So a paradigm shift for me is faith lived out has teeth. It has actions.
Right.
It's not platitudes. It's not getting up and posting your favorite scripture from your Bible app in the morning on your Facebook page and having people like it and praise hands. It's not that. It's actually actions that do something with your faith. You recognize a need and you go and meet it without any expectation of anything in return. It's called the principle of reciprocity.
Sure.
I mean, I teach that in a course right now that we have available on our Life Insurance Academy called The Principles of Influence in Selling. It is the first principle, and that's the principle of reciprocity, to do something of kindness for someone else without any expectation of anything in return. And I think that is the gospel lived out. And I think that is pointing to someone who's bigger than you that says, I love you and I'm going to serve you. I see a need and I'm going to meet it.
Oh, man, I love that. And I was actually having this discussion on another interview and so many people just forget to be, man. Like so many people just get caught up in doing. And as sons and daughters of God, just learning how to be that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then learning how to walk in that. But why do you think so many people, and if I could just stay in this faith lane just for one more minute here, why do
You
you
can
think
stay in
so
here
many,
for the whole interview if you'd like.
let's just let's say Christians, because as a former pastor and church planner, this was something that I saw many people challenged. But in your experience, what have you seen, whether it's spiritual, secular, both? Why do so many people struggle from here, from talking it to actually walking it out? What is some of the biggest challenges you see with people?
I think they don't have a real connection to what their faith is. I believe it's Paul that says faith without works is dead. And too many people are quick to make sure they're sitting in the same seat every Sunday for those people that grew up going to church. And boy, if someone else sits in their seat, now you've got me out of my comfort zone. Who's the stranger in my seat? Like to that extent. And they have created their aura and they have created their persona in that world. But outside of that world, there's a lot of people living around them that are just hurting. And we need to be Jesus to them. I was moved by an experience this past summer. I don't know if you know who Bob Goff is, but
yeah, I've read his most recent book. Yeah, it's good.
Bob Goff's a tremendous author, writer, speaker, New York Times bestseller. His some of his first books, Everyone Always and Love Does. He's got a ministry called Love Does. And it's a nonprofit. I mean, they built schools in Afghanistan that right now are shut down because of everything that just transpired over there. And he's struggling to figure out how to go back and continue to serve those girls and those mothers who were that they were supporting. And he's been in Iran, Iraq. I mean, he's been in so many countries helping people. He has a podcast that I listen to regularly. Well, my wife and I went to a speaker's workshop of his in Ramona, California, back in July of this year. There was only 25 people there, and I got to go out. And he's recently acquired and purchased a Young Life camp just northeast of San Diego, and 250 acres. And he's turned this place into a big retreat center where he invites people in from all over the world to come spend some time. He's got vineyards planted there. He's got an equestrian area there. He's got stables. There's a racetrack there. I mean, he's turned it into a beautiful place. and we got to sit with him. And the thing that I appreciate most about Bob is his mission in life is to be available to people and to love everybody like Jesus would. That's it. He's only got two principles: be available and to love everybody like Jesus would. And I saw his actions and I saw his faith actually lived out while I was there with him for 2.5 days. I got up and I got to have coffee with him each morning. He and I sat and had coffee together. He was the first one out. So he was available to whoever wanted to come and get around and have coffee with him, sitting in the rocking chair on the deck by the little fire pit there. And we were having coffee on those cool mornings, talking about life, talking about making impact. But I just saw him have action. In the back of his book, he's got a phone number. He puts his cell phone number in the back of his books.
Right.
And he said, if you ever need me, call me. And before he started the little workshop that weekend on the speaker's workshop that we went to, he said, I want to let you know through this weekend we got together, my phone is going to ring and I'm going to answer it. And the reason I'm going to answer is because I made a commitment in my books that I would talk to those people, make myself available. And he said, so if that's okay with you, I'm just going to let you know that that's one of my things. If that's a problem, we can talk about it later, but that's going to happen. And sure enough, we get 10 minutes into it and the phone rings. And it's an inmate from San Quentin prison penitentiary. And someone calling just to see if he was real. Is this really Bob Goff? Yeah, this is Bob. Hey, this is Bob. How can I help you? Bob's got this high-pitched voice. And they talked for a minute. He did it again the next morning to a couple that were in San Diego and just wanted to know if it was real, just making himself available. And I thought, man, well, how genuine is that, a faith that he would make himself available and just try to be a light and love to somebody. During that session, Rob, there was a young lady that attended who was terminally ill, and she attended that week with us. And we don't know how much more time she has left. I follow her on social now. We've become friends. But we went down to the stables and had dinner. And on the way back up from dinner, he said, I want to plant a tree. I want to plant an oak tree. And by the way, his ranch up there is called the Oaks. And he said, I want to plant an oak tree in honor of her. Can we all do that together? And someone brought him a potted oak tree, a small one. And we all went down and she started digging the hole. Everyone else came in. We dug a hole. We planted a tree in her honor. And we all stood around and then he prayed for that girl, and that made an impact on her life. But not only did it make an impact on her, it made an impact on us. Such a simple act of kindness to show somebody that they were valued and loved and that she would be honored and recognized for many, many years. And just a small little act of kindness. That is faith that goes from here to here to here very, very quickly. And I think there's a disconnect in too many people. Who they are in this Christian role in the church or in their spiritual role, they don't know how to function with other people and love people like Jesus would. And really, when you think about it, Jesus loved everybody, and he challenged the religious people of the day that said, what are you doing? She's a prostitute. He's a tax collector.
Sure.
What are you doing? Do you know who you're mixing up with? And he said, I didn't come to heal the well. I came to for those that were needing my help.
Sure.
You guys don't need my help. I didn't come for you. Let's go talk to them. Sure. And that's who we need to be. That's who we need to be. So we need to translate that. And I think people have lost that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've lost it in the business realm too, for those that are faith-based or claim. I think of the John Maxwell quote, people don't care how much you know until you know how much you care.
Correct.
And in our industry, the insurance industry, whether it's Medicare or life insurance, I started with financial advising, went into final expense and got into Medicare a few years back. But I think so many people want their message to be heard, but they don't know how to just be genuine and just love people, right? Yeah. It's almost like they just expect or demand people to hear their message, but never really want to connect with the people, you know what I mean? And so I was thinking of that as you were talking, even as a Christian, when I'm interviewing people or when I sit down, I can't tell you how many Medicare beneficiaries I prayed for in my office. Those dealing with stage 4 cancer, and yes, it's nice to make commissions and all that, but making an impact to me means far more, right, than the income, because I know that making an impact is not a strategy. right? It's just who I am because of what God has done in my life. Do you agree with that?
100%. 100%. I mean, the fact that we have been given a second chance. I mean, I'll say it as it is. We've been given a second chance. He's extended his grace to us through his son. And by that grace, we get to have eternal life. And so that's a gift that if we keep that hidden, I mean, what's that going to sound like when we stand there? Is it going to be well done? Is it going to be well done, good and faithful servant? Or what are those words going to be?
Sure.
Is it going to be, why did you waste what I gave you?
Sure.
Why did you waste it? Why did you hide it? You know,
Right.
There's so many people that needed you and step up. And I think a lot of business owners need to take account for who they are. I think, you know, we can get on these paths where we're driven by profit, we're driven by the dollar. And because of the competitive spirit and the personality nature of a lot of business owners, they're drivers, they're the reds, they're the high Ds, you know, and this personality type, it's easy for them to get crossways if things don't go in their favor, or if someone else tries to wrong them. And it takes everything to bite your lip and to be patient and to show gentleness and kindness. So I think by sheer nature of the types of people that go on to become extremely successful in business, and a big propensity of those people being those drivers, those reds, it's easy for us to get what we're actually called to forget what we're actually called to do.
Sure.
And it can cross over, you know, and sometimes we can even call ourselves our own character into question. It's like, okay, am I making a decision here for the bottom line, or am I going to make a decision for impact here?
Right.
And so, at the end of the day, it's always going to be about impact for me.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've always taught in both the church realm, and of course, I manage the agents here, our day-to-day operations for the Medicare gurus. And one of the things that I teach is that I really believe this, that God wired us in such a way that our lives will never truly make sense until we make a difference in the life of other people. Mm-hmm. And in the business realm, I teach that because I want our agents to know it's more than just selling apps, right? It's more than just getting them to buy a policy, although that's going to protect them. And I believe in all that, mm-hmm. but it's more than that. It's really making an impact. So going along the staying in that vein of impact, how do you differentiate between fulfillment and happiness? Do you have a differentiation there? Because I know so many people kind of join that together, but I believe there's a difference there between being happy and ultimately being fulfilled. And I don't think fulfillment comes until we're truly living on purpose, the purpose that I believe our divine creator has, mm-hmm. has created us to be.
I think happiness has its moments. You know, we're happy when we're happy sometimes when we see our kids score a goal. Mm-hmm. We're happy when we see, you know, someone on our team win. We're happy when we go to our sporting event. And, you know, I don't know who you are a fan of in college sports, but you're happy sometimes when your team wins on Saturday.
Right.
Or your team wins on Sunday, or there's a field goal that puts them over the top and they win the game. Or Tom Brady all of a sudden mounts another unbelievable comeback. Like, there's moments of happiness, right?
Right.
But those are fleeting. Those change. Right. Those come and go. They're emotional. Fulfillment comes when you know what you're doing with your life is what you were designed to do. And I think too many people, one of the missions that we have in our business with Advanced Team, our agency side, is that we're calling people into a business opportunity that will allow them to change their life financially for themselves, impact people that they serve, their clients, but also change the financial picture for the people around them and literally create a legacy that goes on. I mean, God's word says that we are to leave an inheritance for our children's children.
Right.
You can't do that waking up and trying to figure out, you know, if we're going to be at the tailgating party for 10 hours or 9 hours.
Right.
If that's your focus in life, that happiness is always going to be temporary.
Right.
But when your mission and calling in life is working towards creating an inheritance for your children's children, and you know you're on point, like you're getting there, yeah, you're going to have challenges, but you're on mission. Boy, there's fulfillment there. And no matter who wins on Saturday, it feels good.
Sure. And speaking of legacy, give us the Roger Short definition of legacy. What does that mean?
Well, I just think legacy is creating a life that outlives me. Creating a life that outlives me. And for me, if I were to leave today, and I just attended the funeral of one of my dear friends who stood right here 2 months ago, and I took a photo of him and put him on camera, and I said, "Hey, Tommy, maybe if we put you on the camera in here, we'll blow it up. Things will change for our business." And we were just joking about that. And he struggled with his health for so many years. And I took him out for lunch that day and got him in and out of the wheelchair into my car and got him in the office for the first time. He'd not been over here. And he finally lost his battle in this world. And I got to go to his funeral this past Sunday. And, I sat there and thought, if I was to check out tomorrow, and I mean, check out of this life, what legacy have I left and what impact have I made that's going to live on beyond me? What are the relationships that I've impacted forever so that their kids, are going to be impacted? What have I done in the family of my children, their spouses, the children that I've not met yet, my grandchildren, if I was to leave now, and then the people around me in business. I've got so many people that have been so valuable to me in business that I could never have done this without. Is their life going to be impacted? And so for me, it doesn't take long to realize I've got a big calling. I've got a lot of work left to do. Knowing that, knowing where I'm going, but I know that there's a lot of people here that need to know that they were created by somebody special, unique, with a calling in their life. And they were designed to be something more, and they were designed for an eternity. And it's my mission to tell those people about that and let them know who they are in light of who they were created to be.
Yeah.
And the sacrifice that God gave to actually see them have eternal life with him. And so through everything I do in business and in my life, I want that to be the legacy that I leave.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I was looking for the choir there for a minute, man. You were taking us to Roger Short Church there for a second. I love it. And Roger, here's another thing that I talk about, and I want to see if you agree with this. I believe it's important that we live on purpose and make an impact, because I watched some other interviews and impact kept coming up with you. Like, you kept talking about impact. And so I really wanted to bring that up. But I believe that God allows us to make an impact in such a way that we activate things in other people. Because a lot of times
100%.
What I see in my journey is that people have settled for less than their calling. And maybe they're waiting for a Roger Short or a Rob Sevilla or whoever to come into their lives and to activate whatever that is, to wake them out of that slumber, if you will, this thing called life that we get into sometimes. But have you seen that in your own journey as well?
100%. I think some of the people who see life the biggest are the inspiring people that create those aha moments for other people, where the light comes on and they realize they were meant for more. I always said that I'm going to write a book and it's going to be called Meant for More. And then I Googled it and there's like 2 or 3 other copies called Meant for More. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm still going to do something about Meant for More, because I believe it to be true.
Sure.
For those of you who are Lord of the Rings fans, I don't know if you're Lord of the Rings fans. I am.
I am. I love it. Yeah.
Bilbo Baggins, he was comfortable, wasn't he? In his hobbit hole, right? He was comfortable in the Shire, and it was up to Gandalf, wasn't it? It was up to Gandalf to go summon him to a great adventure. And Gandalf showed up to him and said, "You got to come with me. There's something more important." Right. There's something more important. And so it's our job to summon people on this great adventure so they can actually see the purpose of their life. And sometimes we get so caught up in our own situation, the things that we're trying to accomplish, our own, and a lot of us are caught up because of finances, relationships, and jobs. And we're not happy in our job. We're not making enough money. And when we're not happy in our job, not making enough money, it affects our relationships, affects our marriage. Marriages break up, you're right. And we don't get enough time at home. And if you're not showing your spouse enough attention, someone else will. There's all of these variables that are going on, and we get so sucked into looking right here. And unfortunately, we forget that we were meant to summon people to this great adventure. And yes, I think we're called to be activators in someone else's life. The idea of getting in the room is something that I've been talking about lately. Like for me, the biggest growth, and I put a post on my social on Facebook just a few days ago, and I said, for me, the biggest times of learning in my life is when I get around other people who are living on purpose, who are trying to create bigger things and more opportunity to make an impact on the world. And when I get around those people, it activates me.
Oh yeah, man.
And then when other people get around me, they tell me, Roger, I got around you and you made me think of this. And then I was able to go do that. Like, it's an infectious enthusiasm that I think is, this idea of entheos, right? If we take the Greek of entheos, right? Theos, God inside of us, enthusiasm. I think it's meant to be breathed out of us. And so this enthusiasm, and I hear it, man, when you do your little morning drives, you're doing those posts. I can hear it. The enthusiasm's coming out.
Yeah.
And that's God in us coming out. And it's not a fake enthusiasm. It's a passion for life.
Yeah.
And that activates people. It inspires people, it wakes people up and helps them realize that person can do it. I can do it. They inspire me. And people are drawn towards people like that. I think too many people are afraid to live outside of themselves for what other people think. The old disease of OPO, other people's opinions. And we've got to speak the life that's in us and let it go and let it loose. And other people are attracted and activated by that. So we need to be the Gandalfs to some Bilbo Baggins. So who's your Bilbo?
Yeah, no, I love that. And the reason I bring that up is because that was me. I was the Bilbo a few years back.
Yeah.
Had been a business owner, made some bad business decisions, just being young, stupid, didn't know what I was doing. It cost me a lot, went into a JOB mentality, and here God sends this other preacher my way. And he says, you'll preach the best sermons you've ever preached when you're financially free.
Yeah.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks, and it reawakened that lion in me. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I had lost a little bit of that passion because of this thing called life. So I'm big on living out this life in community. I'm big in infecting people, because you're infecting people with something, whether you realize it or not. It's either positive or negative.
100%.
So I'm glad
100%.
that you bring that up. And one of the things I want to just briefly mention here, I got 3 more questions as we wrap up. I know we've been going a long while. It doesn't seem like it, but we actually have. And you've just been sharing some great content. What is one leadership principle that you have learned in your life that you've leaned into, but also that you lead from and teach others?
The principle of this 4-word question: how can I help? How can I help? If we lean into the relationships in our life and we go into those relationships thinking, how can I help? Instead of what can I get? It always impacts the outcome on the other side. You always find people who are in alignment with you. You always find people who are going to help elevate your game, who are going to help you become a better person. It's amazing. Some of the best opportunities in business that I've ever experienced, some of the best opportunities in life, in relationships, is looking at people and saying, how can I help? And sometimes it's a quiet internal question about some people or a situation that you're seeing, and you're not physically stating that to them, walking up and stating it, but you're asking yourself, how can you help? And then finding a way to bless them. I mean, really, that's what Dale Winder said to himself when he sent that coat my way, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
He said, how can I help? And this is a way that I can serve. Sometimes it may be about you're in a home with a family trying to help them and bless them with some life insurance or some health insurance, and the house is filling up, and you realize they're all waiting to have dinner, and the person that you're talking to is probably the person that normally makes dinner. Like, in that situation, you can say, how can I help? And pick up the phone and order some pizza and have it delivered and serve them a meal. It goes so far in life. Like, we've done that, and then it's turned into referral after referral after referral because of this gift again and principle of reciprocity. So this idea of reciprocity and this concept of how can I help has led me to find some of the best business partners, some of the best business relationships, some of the best opportunities in life with the association of the people that we run with, and that I'm still expanding. And whenever I get in a circle and I meet new people, I'm trying to figure out how can I help these people in their life? Because I know if I help enough other people get what they want, what does Zig Ziglar say?
Yeah.
You'll get what you want. And it's a biblical principle, Rob. It's not a Zig Ziglar principle. That's a biblical principle.
Oh, yeah.
Do unto others.
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, it's about give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken, right? I mean, it's this overflowing thing that comes back. And so, how can I help? That's the principle that I lead with.
No, I love it, man. I definitely love it. And you're exactly right. I believe they're all God's principles. Man has just regurgitated them or recycled them in some way. And I was actually just read a book called Ask, and it's Ask is the bridge between your dreams and your destiny. And the whole book talks about how many people never achieve that next level or really live life because they're scared to ask.
Yeah.
Why do you, in your journey, whether it's on the insurance side or the final expense or the agency side, or just as a leader in general, why do you think so many people are afraid just to ask? Is it just the culture we live in? Is it just, as you talked about, other people's opinions of us? Is it just a fear that maybe they grew up in, or a combination of all those things?
I think it's a cultural issue. I think we've been raised to avoid rejection and the pain of rejection. And we've seen people around us. Like, I saw my dad not speak out because he was embarrassed about his inability to read and write. So he wouldn't ask. But when we get home, he'd ask my mom, can you go back and find out? But yet, had he asked at the time, those people would have been more than willing to help.
Right.
And he probably would have learned more.
Right.
He probably would have learned more. And those people would have wanted to help, because my dad was a nice guy. He worked hard for people. People appreciated who he was, but he was embarrassed about this piece of his life that he didn't get the blessing of having a family that pushed him to continue on in school when he was a kid. I mean, he didn't even have the option. He couldn't continue, but yet he would never ask. And so this was always a thing that held him back. People who are probably don't have the best financial acumen. They don't want people to know that.
Right.
They're embarrassed to speak out about it. People who are not great with relationships.
Right.
Or who have some personal demons or some bad habits in their life, and they don't want others to know about that. Maybe they have some issues with gambling, drinking, all kinds of other issues that we as human beings on this planet have all fallen into.
Sure.
And so we don't want to ask, because it exposes our weaknesses. It exposes who we are. So as a result of that, if you don't ask, you don't get. It's interesting. We actually did a podcast on that the other day, and we said the one word that can change everything for you in business, and that word is no. If you don't ask, it's the same as asking and get a no. So if you ask and you get a no, or you don't ask, the result is the same. So if you're happy with getting the no, and you just don't want to put yourself through the pain of getting the no, then don't ask, because the result's going to be exactly the same. However, for those people that ask, how many people out there want to respond with a yes, an affirmative? And so,
and that's really what the book is saying. And it's interesting, as I was reading it, I go, man, how many times I didn't ask in my life, and as in ministry, and just as a leader and leading people. It's amazing how we create this false narrative that there's people out there that don't want to help. When I have found, as you said, most people want to help. Now, there's some jerks out there, and I'll Christian cuss for a minute, some b-holes out there, that kind of thing, right? But the reality is most people want to help, and you never know when that one ask is the breakthrough that you need for your life. And it's just amazing to me how we don't ask. So I just wanted to get your outlook on that. And as we transition just a little bit here, and we get ready
I can bring up a case in point.
Sure.
How long ago was it did you reach out to say, hey, would you be willing to do a podcast? How long ago was that? What, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
And how many times did you follow up?
Multiple times, probably 5 to 6 times. Yeah.
And was any of those, were any of my replies rejections?
No.
No, it
No.
just wasn't, we just couldn't make it work at the time.
Right.
Like we're going to, but you kept coming. And I respect your work. I see your posts. I listen. So I'm watching. So oftentimes when people don't get the answer they want the first time, they never go back. And so
Mm,
maybe it's also, Rob, to say, don't just ask once, but to go
yeah,
back and ask again. There's something about a childlike faith when it comes to
man.
asking for something, who will ask over and over again. And their parent, it's not a no, it's just a no for now. But
Yeah.
keep asking, because there's good things on the other side of that,
Yeah.
and don't give up. So I appreciate you being persistent, because I wanted to
Man.
do this with you.
Yeah.
But your multiple asks is what actually got this done.
Yeah.
So now we have a relationship that's better than it was before. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your spirit, man. I pray that this is a lifelong friendship and network somehow. And, I was thinking as you were talking, man, and I just want to look in the camera for a second and talk, just take a time out for a second. Listen, your divine assignment is too important to only ask once. Let me say that again. Your divine assignment, but that I believe the creator of the universe gave you, is too important to ask once. I know God called me to do this podcast. I know God called me to connect with people like Roger and others, not only in our industry, but in various industries. Why? Because I truly believe that one of my missions here on earth is to help people see that they deserve to win, that all of heaven is cheering you on today. And I want you to see that today. And so thank you for sharing that, Roger. That was some good stuff. Now back to regular scheduled programming here. I asked this to everyone that comes on the podcast and would love to hear your response. If there was one word that you could use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
I would say resilient.
Resilient.
Yeah,
Resilient.
I will keep coming. I will
Okay.
keep coming, and I'm going
So
to keep coming.
how is that resilience helped
Mhm.
you become the leader you are today? Can you give us just kind of a brief overview of that?
I think it ties into this idea of asking just once. It's an extension of that. If I believe that everything good in life is going to fall in your lap the first time you ask for it, or the first time you pick up the phone to make a phone call, or the first time you ask a pretty girl on a date, and it took 10 times for her to become your girlfriend to eventually become your wife, whatever your story is about that.
Right.
um the good things in life don't happen like that. Like, you've got to persist, and you've got to be resilient, and life will figure out a way to knock you down.
Yep.
It will knock you down. And it's Tim Grover says that success doesn't care. It just
Right.
doesn't care. And
Right.
you got to get up, and you got to keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And it's the person who wants it the most, who wants the relationship the most, who wants to win the most, who wants to succeed the most, who's trying to rally the cause the most, who's leaning in the most, who will do things when other people will not, who will get up earlier than other people will, who will go to bed later than other people will, who will skip the meals when other people won't, who will skip the Netflix series when other people won't, who will cancel the subscription to HBO Max because they don't have time for that in their life, because their cause and their mission and their on point plan and on purpose plan is too big to spend time doing those things. It's the person who recognizes that their calling is going to take resilience, and resilience is consistent action in a specific direction, regardless of the obstacles, over time. And if you put that in practice, and you keep moving and moving and moving along, I've heard other people say a long obedience in a specific direction, a specific action through obstacles over a period of time. It's the only thing, Rob, that ever creates success. It's the only thing that ever does. You could win a lottery ticket. It doesn't make you successful, because you haven't learned any principles on the way.
Sure.
Peter did not learn the principles of what it meant to love Jesus in one instance. He didn't learn those in one instance when he stepped out of the boat.
Sure.
He learned those over time. He learned those when he said he didn't know who he was.
Sure.
When Jesus said, "You're going to deny me," and he goes, "I'll never do that.
Right.
I'll never do that. I'll never do that. This is me you're talking to." And yet, several hours later, I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
That experience of failing and coming back to a relationship, but persisting and failing and coming forward. And yet it was him that Jesus said, "On this rock that I will build my church." and it was a person who was a failure, but he was persistent in that failure, and he kept coming. To your on point message early is to take massive imperfect action.
Sure.
And when you take massive imperfect action, I would add one thing to that: massive imperfect action over a long period of time. That's the definition of resilience for me. And so resilience is going to yield the results because it's through those things that you see the character of relationships.
Sure.
It's through those things that you will see, is this opportunity what I thought it was? Because some opportunities, you may be pursuing them and then they're not what you thought they were, but it took your resilience and continuing to pursue it to find that out. But for the most part, the biggest successes in my life is being resilient, to keep coming back and to demonstrate consistent character and consistent work ethic and have a desire to make an impact that's beyond my life. And you will find the people that align with you when you do that. You will find the people that resonate with you, and they will seek you out.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. When those people start seeking you out and say, I resonate with that person, I align with that person,
right,
good things come your way, man. Good things come your way. So Rob, I love what you're doing. I love the podcast. I love the message. I love the ministry. Keep doing it. You keep being resilient, and God's going to bless this.
Yeah. Well,
He already has.
Thank you so much. And I love that you attract who you really are. And that's really what you're saying there. And so as we close this out, obviously I know where to find you because I kind of stalked you a little bit to say, come on the show, but got the Life Insurance Academy podcast. It's the number one life insurance podcast, right?
I can't say for certain. However, from everything that we've looked at and all the we'll data,
just prophesy, man. We'll just prophesy it.
That's coming back. It is the fastest growing podcast in the insurance space. I know that. We just passed 20,000 downloads in a month. We're averaging over. Yeah, I mean, we're releasing podcasts now, and people in over 38 countries are picking up the content. I'm amazed. I mean, like, there's people in the Middle East that are listening to our podcast. So I don't know how they're turning that into insurance principles, but I guess people buy insurance there too. But it's a lot of life principles. So yes, you can find us there. We have the Life Insurance Academy is a training platform. We do events, we do coaching, and we have courses available. We've got an event coming up here in a couple of weeks called the Game Changer Boot Camp. We do training events with others. We collaborate with other people around the country on principles on growing and scaling your business in this space. My company, Advanced Team Partners, is an insurance organization in the life insurance space. So we have an agency model and a brokerage model. People can connect with us there, and we have a life-changing opportunity within that business. And we partner with people to help them realize their financial future, realize their life's calling, and to make an impact while doing it. So you can find us there, but you can find me on Instagram, Roger Short. You can find me on Facebook, Roger Short. You can look up Life Insurance Academy on social, Life Insure Acad. You can find us there, and I'm sure you'll probably do some links in your
I'll do some
promos
links
as well. So yeah, we're in Louisville, Kentucky. I love it here. We're in the state of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, where they breed horses and bourbon. So that's the two things that we're known for here in Kentucky. So
right. Well, listen, man, I so appreciate you coming on today. I mean, I could go on and on and on. You're just dropping some serious content, spitting some serious fire, and very thankful that you were so generous to your time. And as we close out today, listen, I pray that this put fresh wind in your sails. I pray that this compelled you to go one more day to go after your dreams, because I truly believe this. It's not a fake thing for me. I truly believe that all of you deserve to win, but Roger can't make you do it. I can't make you do it. All we can do is share a little bit of our story that we pray pushes you to say, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on myself today and go after the dreams and goals that God has for my life. And once again, just want to encourage all of you to please subscribe below, so that way you're notified, and share this with other people that may need to hear this. But I will close out this way. God bless you guys. Make it an awesome day, and we will talk to you soon.